8 days to go until the season kicks off. It's almost here. And today, the randomizer, oh my god, the randomizer has served us all up a treat. Today we're going to be talking about Williams, their 2019 season preview. How is it going to be? Will they be here in 2020? So much drama going on with this team at the moment. Perfect timing to talk about them. Welcome to my 2019 preview series. Each day until the start of the season, we're going to be previewing, having a little deep dive into the nitty-gritty of each of the Formula One teams. So if you enjoy that, feel free to subscribe. But Williams, a team that, before all the dramas that have taken place this week, I've really looked forward to talking about because they're such an interesting team. Humble beginnings, a very small team, and yet this year there is so many storylines with this team. It really is an incredible one to speak about. So I'm chuffed for it. I'm not going to talk about the livery. That is something that I've spoken in length about. I'm not a fan of the livery. It's got the right colours, but the design still needs a bit of work. And the fact that it's still looking a little bit shaky on track, big question marks over this team. So then, Williams, as always with these previews, we like to have a little look back at the past of a team. Unfortunately for Williams, I don't see much happening in terms of great results in the near future. So at the moment, for the team that, as you will see, a once great team in Formula One, last year was their worst season ever, last in the constructors' standings. 1 point finished for Sergei Sorokin, 2 for Lance Stroll, but overall the season was diabolical. By far the worst team on the grid. The team that's had 9 drivers world championships, 114 race wins, 128 pole positions, has had drivers such as Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, Nigel Martin, Rubens Barrichello, Nico Rosberg, that's a name that'll cause some controversy, and even the greatest of all time, Pastor Maldonado. All of these drivers have been at Williams, and yet the team is in turmoil, slipping down. Well, I was going to say slipping down the order since about 2016, but ever since the 2009 rule regulations came in, the team has generally been in a constant decline. When the 2014 new regulations came in, there was this resurgence, this renaissance for Williams, almost winning races in Silverstone, a pole position for Felipe Massa in Austria. But then, even though third overall in the standings was a brilliant effort in 2014, once again they failed to keep up that momentum and now have slipped back to the very back of the pack. And last year, bottom of the constructors' standings. This year, after testing, missing the first 2 days, and on the third day where they actually showed up, only did a handful of laps. I think it was 26, I believe. A lot of those were just testing systems and doing a shakedown of the car. So the car isn't looking great. It's looking like, once again, they're going to be the back marker team. But who are the unlucky guys in this seat? Who are the unlucky boys that have got a place on Formula One? Yes, brilliant, but it's going to be a back marker car. Well, these two drivers, this is why I've wanted to talk about this team. Because yes, there are issues with management. You might have seen on the last slide that Paddy Lowe, technical director, he's going on leave. And let's be honest, I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. Big management issues. But on the driver side of things, I don't think they've got any issues whatsoever. Another brilliant lineup in 2019. Robert Kubica and George Russell, both with very unique stories to tell. And usually in these videos so far, I've discussed what are going to be the aims for these drivers, and usually, well, I think with this team it's very different, isn't it? This team, they're going to have to be trying, emphasise trying, to look for points anywhere they can, because it's going to be difficult. It's going to be bloody difficult. Apologies for language, but it really is. And for two drivers that, let's be honest, are inexperienced. George Russell, a rookie in Formula One this year. Robert Kubica hasn't driven a Formula One car in race spec since 2010. An incredible story and journey he has had, which we'll move on to in a second. But a lot of issues with Williams, and I think what I'm trying to portray is they're not going to be fixed by the time we get to Abu Dhabi. It's going to be a difficult year for the team. they're all preparing for this, they're all ready for this, but it's going to be really difficult for both of those drivers to try and get into the swing of things. Now, let's start then into our little deep dive with Robert Kubica. As I mentioned, hasn't raced in Formula 1 since 2010. The only Polish driver to stand on the podium, 12 podiums overall, 1 race win back in 2008, the Canadian Grand Prix, and 1 pole position as well to his name. This man used to be my favourite driver in Formula 1, and after a horrific incident in rally car in 2011, he didn't take part in the Formula 1 season that year, which shocked a lot of the Formula 1 fan base. However, what a journey he has had after testing a Renault 2017 car. Was he going to come back onto the grid in 2018? A few question marks. Would he replace Palmer? Would he come to Williams? But no, 2018, it didn't quite happen. Got that reserve driver role with Williams, but now he makes his full Formula 1 return, which I think a lot of people will be a bit emotional come race day. I think I will be a bit emotional because it's been an incredible journey he's been on. Big question marks on whether his injury, he still does have an injury which may hinder his performances, but this is the man that Lewis Hamilton said, this guy is the real deal. And even Lewis and Seb have both said this guy in his prime was better than both of them. Don't know if I agree with that, even though I was a Kubica fan, but they both rate this guy very, very highly. And if he's anywhere near the talent he was back in the BMW Sauber days, and even Renault, he is going to be an absolute star and really a key part of getting that Williams back to the front. But as I mentioned, hasn't raced since 2010, and there's a lot of things that have changed. And I think people don't realise that. George Russell, on the other side of things, a driver, again, rookie. No races, no points. So really, all those stats on screen are a waste of time, except that he's from the UK. George Russell, Mercedes young driver. That is a big talking point with him. Is he going to be able to shine in that Williams car? Is he going to be able to prove to Mercedes that, first, is he better than Esteban Ocon, someone who's not got a seat this season? Secondly, can he prove to Mercedes that he deserves a chance in the big number 1 team? Is he going to be able to do that in the Williams? Because that will be his personal target, impressing Mercedes. Doesn't matter about points necessarily for him, because his target is going to be going to that number 1, that big team, that big name, and hopefully partnering Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure that's what he wants in his own mind, but I think he's got the speed, got the talent. Last year's Formula 2 world champion, he is going to be quick. And I think it's the perfect pairing for Williams because you've got the experience of Kubica. Yes, it's not raced for a long time, but there will be race knowledge, race awareness there, years of experience over George Russell. Whereas Russell is going to be this hungry, feisty driver who wants to really put himself out there on the map in Formula 1. And I think it's a perfect balance. 2 very quick drivers. I think these were the best options for Williams. And I think they're really going to be able to iron out some of the silly mistakes we've seen over the past couple of years from Williams drivers. It's the best lineup they've had for a very long time. And now the difficult part, who's going to win the head-to-head? It is so difficult to call between these two because Robert Kubica, you'd be sensible to put your money on him. But for me, as I was slightly alluding to earlier, I really do think you've got to treat this as it's his rookie season because people say, oh, there's some slight changes, but not a lot. But there really is a lot of changes. Even silly little things like the DRS. When Kubica was in Formula 1, there wasn't even DRS. It's silly little things like that, which, yes, by themselves seem very minor, but when you start to add them up, can really make a lot of changes. And we know how drivers back in 2017 really struggled with the change of aerodynamics, change of regulations. Even Lewis Hamilton and co, I say Lewis Hamilton, but world champion, even he was struggling in certain races. How is Kubica going to perform in races like Singapore? Really difficult races, hot, humid, different elements coming his way, not just being able to drive the car, but withstand temperatures and the elements, if you will. So I think Russell just edges this for me. I really do. And I think that mainly, not because I think Kubica is bad. I still love the guy and I hope he does well and I hope he reaches the heights that he was able to do back in BMW, maybe get some points for Williams this year. But Russell, for me, is so underrated in Formula 1. He's a previous Formula 2 world, he's the reigning Formula 2 world champion. You look at Lando Norris, who's coming into Formula 1 with heaps and heaps of pressure on his shoulders because of the media saying this guy is the next Lewis Hamilton, he's the next British hope. George Russell wiped the floor with him for most of the Formula 2 season. So this guy is a real talent. And I think it's going to be, I suppose, to his advantage that he doesn't have all this pressure on his shoulders. But again, like I've said with the last two, this is not a cut and dry, easy to call one. It's going to be close. But for me, George Russell just edges it. I see both of them staying for the entire year. And Williams have said that Russell is their future. They want him to stay with the team for at least 2 or 3 years, so I expect that relationship to grow over the season, so he just edges it for me. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Where are Williams going to finish in the Constructors? That's not really a great question, is it? Because I think we all agree they're going to be last. But who is going to win in the head-to-head? Russell or Kubica? So there will be a poll in the top right-hand corner. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow's preview is a very spicy one indeed, so look out for that one at around 3:30. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.